Magyanatimirandasya gyanam janashalakaya chakshurunmilitam jena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namashrishtam manumapi sachiputram atra sarupam Rupam tasyagrajamurupurim maturim gostavatim Radha kundam girivaram maho radhikamadhavasam Prapto yasya pratitta kripaya Sri Gurum tam natosmi Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Nikhila Shruti Moli Ratnamala Diti Nirajita Padapankajanta Aji Mukta Kulai Rupasyamanam Paritastvam Harinam Shamshrayami Anarpita Charim Chirat Karunayavatirana Kaloho Samarpaitum Svabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dyuti Kadamba Sandipita Sada Hridaye Kandaresh Purato Vasachinandana Ajanulambita Bhujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambharo Dviyabharo Jugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Ladini Shakti Swarupaya Gauranga Suhridaya Cha Bhakta Shakti Pradhanaya Gadadhara Namostute He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Radhe Vrindavanadishe Karunamrita Vahine Kripaya Nijyapadabja Dasyanmayam Pradiyatam Bhaktya Vihinaya Paradhalakshay Shibda Shakamadi Tarangamadhye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanam Brinde Namaste Sharanaravindanam Brinde Namaste Sharanaravindanam Shri Sachinandan Gaudhari Ki Jai Shri Harinam Prabhu Ki Jai Gaudiya Vaishnav Guru Parampara Ki Jai Samaved Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premanand Hari Hari Bol. So, welcome to you all. Pranam. Those present in 3D here, those connected and via Zoom today. We are having our usual Saturday SATSANG or quest and exploration, as I like to call it, Q&A, more than Q&A, than questions and answers. We are all in a quest and exploring unlimited realms, a little bit in a different time today to adjust with our local gatherings here. So thank you for those who are able to adjust and be participating online as well. So yeah, as usual, we're inviting for any, whether we want to call it questions or thoughts or ideas you would like to explore in greater depth. Those can be related to anything, to whether what we were sharing today in the morning or any other topic apparently disconnected from it, but at the end of the day, everything is connected. So there's nothing absolutely outside of the topic. For those who are participating online, they can raise their digital hand, but as I used to do, I tend to give priority to those who have made the effort to be in 3D here. So if you have any question, we can begin here, and eventually if someone of those joining us via Zoom have a question, we can also go there. Meanwhile, you can raise your digital hands just in case. But what about the 3D Sangha? I heard that Patrak had a question. He said today earlier.
Desperately try to remember it now.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah, my question is, you were talking about pure love, unconditional love. So the first part of the question is, those two terms, can we use them interchangeably, or are there subtle differences between pure love and unconditional love? And the other part of the question would be, to really be able to receive and give unconditional love, is it hard to accept that you actually can never really repay unconditional love?
Yes to the second question. Were you able, those connected, to listen to the question? Yes. Okay. So second question was, part of the path of receiving unconditional love is to acknowledge that you cannot pay back.
That you can never, you have to accept the fact that you are never really able to pay back unconditional love.
Yeah. Yeah, because again, the very idea of paying back, it's counterintuitive, it's contradictory to the very word unconditional love. The moment you start to think in terms of paying back, it's kind of a condition that you're bringing to the table, as we were talking today in the morning. Is in one sense, unconditional love is too much to be deserved. So we cannot think in terms of earning Krishna's love, but also we can say unconditional love is too much to be paid back also, which doesn't mean we shouldn't do our best to try. But the very nature of that is, as we were exploring this morning, is you will never feel I've done it. I cleansed my debts. I paid back all that I had to pay. I'm not in debt with you, Krishna, anymore. Zero. My account is in zero. I'm good. It's an ongoing debt for us and for Christians, we were saying, right? That's the interesting paradox of love. In the spiritual world, everyone feels a debtor, right? Everyone feels I'm in debt. But not again out of guilt, not out of like some toxic sense of I have to give more because I'm in debt and I feel terrible about myself until and unless I pay all my debts back. This type of pattern, not that. But in a very natural way, when someone is pouring over so much generosity and love, and you know you need it, so you receive it. You cannot deny that. At the same time, it's overwhelmingly generous, so you need it, and you cannot pay back. That's an interesting situation, right? I need this grace in unconditional love, irreversible grace, as I like to call it. I need it so badly, but once it knocks on our door and you get a glimpse of the nature of that grace, you relatively quickly realize I cannot give back anything equal to this. Like Srila Siddhar Maharaj will describe the spiritual world as a place which is, in that place, even the speck of dust is made of a substance that is of a higher quality than what you are made of. Like making the point of everything is too much there in that realm of consciousness. So it's not about entering there to pay back, right? It's another way of trying to deserve. No? If I want to, of course, I want to reciprocate, I want to love, but not so much from a guilt, calculated, toxic place of paying back, so I'm not so much in debt, so I don't feel so bad about myself. Because if that's the case, it's all about myself, and it's not about really lovingly offering myself to them. So I will say that unconditional love is too much to be earned, too much to be deserved, and too much to be even paid back. But still we will try. That's what everyone is trying their best in the spiritual world on a daily basis. But there's so much more love to give. There's so much more to reciprocate from both sides that keeps the whole thing going on for eternity. No, there will never come a day when Krishna says, okay, I'm done with my debts. Radha, I do not owe you anything else now. I'm filled with that. No. That's why Gaur Lila is eternal. Gaur Lila is Krishna's desperate attempt to enter into the mood of Radha and somehow empathize with her love for him, try to understand how much she loves me. Now, what's the nature of her love for me? I cannot fathom the dimension of that. So I will create, although Gaur Lila is eternal, but I'm using these words, another Lila for me to try to explore that in detail. And Gaur Lila goes on forever, which means Krishna still is exploring that, and he cannot pay back. He's still empathizing and discovering and trying to, to do justice to that gift, so to say, to honor that properly. But there's always something new to honor. I don't know if that makes sense.
I mean, apart from this, that is not possible by the very definition, because unconditional love means.
That's the very first thing I say. If we say paying back unconditional love.
Apart from this morning you explained that love is not something you reach at one point and then it's over.
Yeah.
It's going on.
Yeah.
So while you're trying to pay back the debt, the person is giving you so much more. So there will never be an end to it. So it's not possible to reach an end.
Yeah. The debt keeps increasing, actually. And it's fine. As I like to say, the only way to solve our karmic debt is by entering into another debt with a higher department, if you will. An ever-increasing debt with unconditional love. That's the only way we can get free from the other types of debts. So confront understanding the nature of love. It's ever-evolving. And we could say a conditional love, if love is ever-expanding and ever-evolving, then we can say unconditional love becomes at every moment even more unconditional. Because if love is ever evolving and love is unconditional, then love is always evolving in its unconditionality also. Again, it's difficult to immediately we try to grasp that here, like how much it evolves, how much unconditional. That's when Brahma realizes my four heads here don't work anymore. They collapse. And he said, Jnana prayasa mudapasya namanta eva. At one point, Brahma, the greatest thinker of the universe, who thinks in all four directions very scientifically, in the face of the unconditional love of Vrindavan, all the thinking capacities are like crushed. And he said, Jnana prayasa mudapasya. I completely reject all these great efforts for Gyan, for trying to understand and calculate. I've tried my best, but here, namanta eva, he says. Instead of all that, namanta, namaste. The best thing I can do with my head is putting that on the ground and honoring the nature of this love. I cannot fathom that. It's too much for my head. And Brahma is saying that. He has four big heads, thinking heads. He's saying, in the face of the endless nature of unconditional love, the best thing we can do, just put your hand on the ground and offer him prostrated respects to that. That's why everyone in Vrindavan seems to be quite illiterate. I mean, it's not that they are illiterate. When they come in Gaur Lila, they are all the greatest pandits on earth. But in that dynamics of that love, you don't need to think about that. No, it's like the lesson is basically don't try to think love. It's kind of counterintuitive to the nature of love. You think as much as you can, find your thinking capacities reaching their final limit, and then surrender. Yeah. So going back to the first question of Patrak, which was, sorry.
Pure love and unconditional love.
Yeah, thank you. So whether the first question was, could we use the word pure love and unconditional love interchangeably? Yes, we can. Of course, it all depends what everyone understands by those words, right? Because sometimes we have so many assumptions. So we're talking these days. If I say one word, anartha, mercy, God, love, right? We have sometimes a list of assumptions. What does it mean? Sadhu, sangha, we were defining some of these terms these days. But and we can also speak about degrees of that, right? Because I don't know, we may be able to be unconditional in our loving to some degree, but again, there's always a new way of being more unconditional. So it's not like black and white. Also, we may be working in being as unconditional as we can. It's not like you are absolutely conditional and now you're absolutely unconditional. You know, it's a transition. So we want to use unconditional love as a love that is free from all conditioning. Okay, we can say it's pure love, but sometimes, again, pure love may be a term used for prem bhakti, the highest expression of divine love. And someone can express some form of unconditional love without having reached prem bhakti also. So that's my point. Sometimes we may need to use them separately, or they can mean the same in some cases. We may need to clarify what do we mean by that. Yeah. But again, today in the morning, that was today? Yeah, today in the morning, a few things happen per day. We were trying to define love as coherently as possible, and we were defining it according to what Rupa Goswami said as an deeply intentional disposition, free from ulterior motives, aiming at the best possible well-being for the person we love. Like, in other words, you try to do your best you can wherever you are according to that. So there's a way of saying, even if you haven't reached Prema Bhakti, so to say officially, but you are trying to give yourself in love as best as you can given your present circumstance, that could be described as pure love also, in one sense, because that sincerity of giving yourself will naturally propel your further attainment of all the remaining stages of love, so to say. And in that case, we can compare unconditional love and pure love, even if we are in a stage which is not the official stage of pure love that some will label as prem. You may be in bhav, you may be in asakti, you may be in ruchi, you may be in nishta, or even below that. But if you are utterly sincere and, okay, I'm trying to give myself in love as best as I can in my current moment, you are doing your best, that warranties all success. And that's why Krishna will say so many times in the Gita and other scriptures, Name bhakta pranashati, my devotee never perishes. Nehabi kramana susti pratyabhayana vidyate svalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato vayat. In this path, there's no loss, there's no diminution. Even the smallest gain will be never lost. So he's given all this like warranty. All success is there. So there are ways to think about pure love in that way. I'm trying to offer as love, as pure as I can of a love in this present moment, so to say. And that will take me to swiftly to, and again, when we reach officially pure love, that's what Tarpro was saying, still in that level, you can continue to develop. And in that sense, if you can speak about love becoming even more pure or even more refined, even more deep, there's no limit. There's something that we'll be talking tomorrow morning, that sometimes we use the word perfection in any tradition. That's a dangerous word, because many times by perfection we assume a fixed maximum. Oh, he attained perfection. Endpoint, rooftop, no further development. But that idea of perfection is very imperfect. Right? I'm so perfect that there's nothing else to experience and discover. That doesn't sound like perfection. That sounds limiting. You follow my point? We become so obsessed with getting a very perfect definition of perfection that it ends up being too imperfect. No. Perfection has to be so perfect that there's nothing else that can happen after that. And the more you elaborate that idea, the more suffocating it feels, the more imperfect it shows itself. So real perfection is an ongoing state of further discovery and attainment. So again, what's pure love in the context of that? That's the point. These are words, right? Pure love, unconditional love. But the reality and the experience of all that is, it's ever evolving. And we can never pay it back completely. Yeah, Damodar.
I had an interesting conversation in a car with a couple a few weeks ago. And there was also this topic of perfection played a whole role, although we came to it from another side. Because this idea of perfection leads very much to this idea that the material world is needed as a place for us to realize ourselves. And in this conversation, this unfolded like that I tried to give them this picture of this X, so to say, where we have all this variety on the material platform. And then the higher we go, we see how everything is connected until we get to this point where everything comes together, so to say. And this is what many call Brahman or Buddhist Nirvana and so on. And then I described how from this a whole world opens up again. And what is the lowest in the material world is then the highest there. And you have the biggest variety there on top. And then the girl said, but why, if it's perfect, why is there any need to have forms and everything again? Why is there a need for a spiritual world? And then I said, well, because we want to express ourselves. And then she said, yeah, but I thought this is why we come into this so-called, she used another term, but I would say now material world. And then I said to her, yeah, well, in this material world, we can also express ourselves different from God's ideas of how love is expressed. So we have our safe space to do that here. But here everything is based on this idea of not enough. The word now in English.
Insufficiency or something like that.
Yeah. So we're always fighting to get something, to survive. This idea is very much, it's a basic notion in our existence. And in the spiritual world, you don't have to do anything. It's true. Brahman is, so to say, this perfect frozen moment where everything is there as it should be. You don't have to do anything. But the idea is that love wants to express itself. It doesn't have to, but it wants to. And so there's this idea that, and I explained Radha and Krishna and so on, how they divide in order. The only reason that they're separating is so that they can come together. All of these things. And you explained all of this very nicely today. And I see that it's such a gem to have these ideas in our tradition, because this very nice girl, she asked me 3 times, she came back to this point and said, okay, interesting when I explained something. And then she said, I still don't understand. Why would we do that in the spiritual world? So it was very, and then I said to her, but why are we doing it in the material world? It was a simple question. Huh? And she was, in the material world, she kind of had an idea. Yeah, sure, because we want to experience ourselves and this and that. So why not on the supreme pure level of pure love? Why don't we want to experience us there? And she had a really hard time with that. And it just showed me that this is really beautiful thing that we have access to this knowledge. And you said it very nice today. For some reason, I think it could be controversial, not for me, but immediately I had this feeling, well, some people might find it controversial what you said. But I could relate very much when you said, God without love would be Brahman. There would be no need for action. And Brahman is without action, so to say. Everything is there potentially, but no action. But then love comes into place, and all of a sudden we want to do so much. Although from material point of view would be no reason at all. And Krishna, all of Vrindavan, all of these things, it's all, how to say, there to make things complicated. Because only when things are complicated, when variety is there and so on, then we can express love. And the more complicated something is, the more we can show how much I care. You explained it, how Radha and Krishna have a hard time to meet. And then I go and say, okay, we try to arrange something. Radharani is even married.
Exactly. That's a clandestine issue. Don't tell it too loud.
Exactly, yeah. So many obstacles are created just to have this sweetness, being able to show someone else, look how much I love you. And of course, I'm very, very far away from really experiencing that, but I thank you very much that you go here and explain this in these nice words, which is already there in our tradition, which I think is a very beautiful gem. And let me end on the note that I say, we talk so much about this, but sometimes I have the feeling, okay, am I Maya for daring to think in this direction, And it's nice to be in a Sangha where these things are addressed and where I actually get this reassurance. This is in the tradition, and not just it's there somewhere, but it's actually an essential part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it very much.
Thank you for turning the camera, but I wanted everyone to get to know who was behind those brilliant words. So how you were able to listen to Damodar's sharing? Yes, they are saying. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, and I agree with you in all that you said, and especially in how for some people it may be hard to understand some of these nuances of diversity and loving interaction, and for many it's so ingrained in our psyche that the ultimate transcendence must be somehow the opposite of what we are seeing here. And it's sometimes difficult. Bhakti is so full circle that somehow it looks ordinary, right? Like many people will think, oh, someone who is very spiritual will look very different from any of us. So when they see someone, I don't know, walking with a loincloth and long dreadlocks and long beard and covered in ashes, oh, that person is really spiritual. But if they see maybe someone like Patrak, like normal t-shirt, again, these are externals, right? But we judge so much for the external. We may not think, oh, this here we have someone with an extraordinary ideal in life like the one we are sharing, because overtly doesn't look like otherworldly. We tend to have this type of prejudice. Like, okay, transcendental means extraordinary, and that means overtly different to what we are having in the day-to-day. But then you go again to Krishna Lila, and in one sense it looks so ordinary. If you don't have the proper access, it's like, this is a folk tale of uncivilized tribal people. What's here of transcendence? No? Vaikuntha is transcendental. Right? It's 4 arms, like people flying, extraordinary stuff happening. That now we are getting, or even Brahman for some may seem even more transcendental. Again, no forms, nothing of this stuff. But it's interesting because, as we were saying, in Brahman, in one sense, there is no love, at least in action. Literally speaking, and it's not my own idea, but it's what the scriptures say. Yeah, Brahman is the absolute without loving dynamics, without interacting with his shaktis, with his potencies. No? Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate, says the Vedas. Brahman has shaktis. No? Because sometimes it's the argument, no, Brahman is the ultimate reality is Brahman, but Brahman has shaktis. So what happens with Brahman? In fact, and I mentioned that in my book, because generally by Brahman, we tend to think about the impersonal, absolute, without qualities, without love, without movement. But actually Brahman, the root Sanskrit dhatu, Sanskrit root for Brahman is brim. And brim means to grow and makes others grow. the one who expands and makes other expand. That's actually what Brahman means. So that implies lots of movement, lots of activity. And that's why ultimately Krishna, we will say, is para Brahman, the ultimate Brahman, Purna Brahma, as the Brahma says in the Bhagavatam. Aho bhagyam nanda gopa brajokasham yam mitram paramanandam Purna Brahma Sanatan. So when we have the absolute, interacting with his low love potency, not only we have an absolute with form, with movement, but even we'll argue we have a dancing absolute. It's not just moving. Not again what the Brahma Samhita say. In that realm, every step is a dance. Every word is a song. No? It's difficult not to dance and not to song. Just walking is dancing. That's the level of movement that love creates between the soul and the absolute. When bhakti is there in the equation, actual walking is not possible. Only dancing, sorry. You cannot talk, you can only sing. That's to the degree in which bhakti infuses both Krishna and the devotee with movement, so to say. So that's very, very far removed from the idea of Brahman as nirvishesh, no activities, no personality, no loving interaction, no sense of individuality, which is a possibility. I'm not here to condemn that. That's a possibility in transcendence that is not our cup of tea, so to say, but it's there, mentioned in scriptures. But it's very different from the dynamism of divine love, which is like a full circle in transcendence, which again seems to be back to this world. You go to Brajalila and it seems, this is like a small village. It seems so small, but there's so much spaciousness in terms of love. By contrast, you go to Brahman. It seems so spacious, like all-pervading, infinite, absolute, but there's no love. So it's like if you are standing in the Sahara Desert, wow, but there's nobody but you. So you feel it's so big, but it's so small at the same time. I cannot love. You go to Vaikuntha, in one sense, Vaikuntha seems smaller than Brahman, because in Vaikuntha you have forms. In Brahman, there's no form. It all seems like all-pervading. In Vaikuntha, it seems more localized, smaller, but there's more love than in Brahman. So it's bigger in heart space. And then you go to Vrindavan, where the love is in even more intense. So the more intense love becomes, the more everything else seems smaller externally, because it becomes so much bigger in terms of the heart. So in Vrindavan, everything seems like a small village, tribal, uncivilized people, apparently. But when you inspect their hearts, wow, there's so much spaciousness there. You won't find it in Vaikuntha, in Brahman, anywhere else. So that's the interesting thing. That's why we have to pay very close attention to appreciate the unique gifts that the Gaudiya Sampradaya have. Again, not to develop any sense of superiority religious complex, like we are better than anyone. No, not in that direction, but just to honor the particular theological conception that we have been gifted with and honor that properly. And understand it's not so easy even for sometimes for devotees to understand or to appreciate what you actually have in your own inheritance. So we may need to take time to glimpse at that. It takes time. It's fine. And as you say, it's not a forbidden issue if we are doing it with care, and respect and reverence and commitment, and not as an escape from any other thing. Because again, at the end, this full circle of the Braja Lila brings us all back to earth in one sense, like we were talking these days. It's not about going anywhere. It's a state of consciousness that you have to reach here and now. So it's not about spirit. Our practice is not an evacuation plan, so to say. I'm doing this to be thrown over there So yeah, bhakti is it's difficult to understand in many ways. In one sense, so simple and so essential. It looks ordinary. And it may be misconstrued as this is not so extraordinary. So that's why we need to properly grasp the actual extraordinariness of bhakti, not only when presenting that to others, but when us appreciating what's the path I'm in. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that reflection. Here I have Nanda Kumar raising his digital hand for the last half an hour. Shall we give him a rest from that hand raised? It's a digital one, so I don't think it's so tiring, but just in case. You can unmute yourself, Nanda Kumar.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees.
Let me introduce Nanda Kumar to the
even though the question was even the question was half an hour, but the things you were speaking, it was touching on it. It's the question, I guess, it's about resources and about see, sometimes I have experienced that you experience some deep when Krishna touches you, you are brimming with faith. You have wings, very big wings, and you can fly and you can move mountains due to that conviction. And then we see sometimes pure devotees are glorified for the amount of service they do. At the same time, it's like my mind sometimes maybe criticizes this. Well, if I would have such faith and such love, I also could be doing such things. But at the present moment, I am dry as a cactus. No, cactuses are not dry, but
That's lots of
there are some dry grasses.
Oh, maybe the example is proper. You're like a cactus. You think you're dry, but there is something good over there. A few thorns outside, but no problem.
Something is there. Yeah. Yes. So one part of the question is that proper? Actually, saying glory. What Prabhupada did this, Prabhupada did that. He did so many things at the same time. He was on such a high level. There was such a deep taste. Well, no wonder he did that. So that's my offensive mind. I'm begging for forgiveness. I love Prabhupada and all other pure devotees. So that's one aspect. And another, down to earth, is me being a cactus now. When will I be the succulent fruit which will be offered to Krishna? So it might be, I thought it will be, the dark night of the soul can be just 1 month, 1 year, but it could be much longer. So how to not judge one by externals, maybe how many hours you sleep less or how many things you did, but how to persevere this journey. It might take more years. I guess that's I'm sorry, I threw many things down there, many pieces.
No, it's fine. Thank you. You are a very sensitive and also humorous cactus like Bhakta. There's nothing wrong with being a cactus, just in case. I'm clarifying that. So thank you, Nanda Kumar, for the question. And again, while you were asking the question or basically sharing the heart, it doesn't need to be like a professionally presented question. Sometimes it's more like, okay, this is what I need to share. And I was saying here, some of the devotees were also like nodding, like, I'm also a cactus. Yeah. I'm also in the desert. Yeah. So you're not alone in the desert with being a cactus, Nanda Kumar. We have the whole garden there. So yeah, I mean, the first thing that I will say is, again, you are not alone in that. But the big syndrome that somehow has been installed in many of us, and many of us, I'm not referring only to Gaudiya Vaishnavas, that living entities in human form in particular, we seem human to have particularly be very talented, say that ironically, in comparing ourselves with others, right? Like comparison is such a torture. I mean, you want to be miserable, just start comparing yourself with someone else. Immediately, anxiety starts. Immediately. Because in comparing yourself, you start to not accept yourself. You immediately start to look up on someone else's life. One thing is to be inspired by someone else's life. But comparison generally is more like if mirroring back, which always puts you in a lesser position and you're trying to imitate, or if I will have been like them, or grass seems greener on the other side of the fence. We know that. So it's a formula for misery, warranted festival of misery. Comparison, especially when you compare with a great personality like Prabhupada, like you were giving the example. I mean, we all love Prabhupada, and in many ways we are all here because of him. But we shouldn't compare with him. No. In any way. And we should not even compare him with anyone else. In the sense of, I can bring into the picture Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And we will agree, okay, we can think of someone like Prabhupada and his own guru as personalities on the same level of elevation, but still there's no sense in trying to compare them. And what to speak of, like doing math in terms of hours of service or numbers. Okay, Prabhupada initiated 4,000 something devotees. Let's see. Oh, his guru initiated less. Is he less successful, less advanced? I don't think Prabhupada will be happy with you thinking like that, right? Or let's go one generation before. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur opened 64 mats. Oh, Prabhupada 108 means, oh, he's better. He's outgrowing his guru. Again, that's mundane, dualistic counting, calculation. We have to burn down that calculator machine. Gorkishore Das Babaji, how many mats he opened? 0. Bhaktisiddhanta has so many disciples. How many Gorkishore Das Babaji? 1, problem. What to speak about those who had 0? I mean, let's go, I don't know, to some of the 6 Goswamis who are such great personality for us. Some of them had 0 disciples in terms of initiation. Are they less because of, so again, they wrote more books, they opened more temples, they have more disciples, they swept the floor more hours. But Krishna, at the end of the day, he's saying, as we say yesterday morning, you just offered to me 1 drop of water with full presence, intention, and heart, and I'm eternally indebted to you. That's success. And you cannot measure success by any external yardstick. We are so drawn to do that. And that's so dangerous when we do that with great personalities who have such a wealth internally, but we're just measuring them externally. And then we measure ourselves in comparison to that external measuring of the, that's very distorted. So we should, my not, I won't say formula, but just my way of keeping myself alive and sane when dealing with great personalities and not entering into the neuroses of comparison and feeling I'm never enough, because you can get there so easily. And it can be so discouraging. I mean, you study I don't know. Let's follow the standard of Raghunath Das Goswami. I mean, after 15 minutes, you're all depressed, crying because it's not possible. Because we are not Raghunath Goswami. And we are not supposed to be Raghunath Goswami. You are supposed to be who? Say it. Thank you. That's the hardest answer. You are supposed to be yourself. Myself. That doesn't sound fancy. Raghunath Goswami carries more, right? Weight and fame and glory. But you are not Raghunath Goswami. Again, we are back to Krishna's instruction in the chapter 3 of the Gita for Arjuna. You better do your dharma imperfectly than someone else's perfectly. Be your own mess, but your own. Don't try to own someone else's so-called perfection, which probably is not even perfection, but it seems like from the idealized side of the fence. Oh yeah. When you actually cross the fence and try to get there, you realize, oh, they have probably, in most cases, similar struggles to me. So at the end of the day, it's about self-acceptance. And if we are still want to compare, well, we can compare ourselves with ourselves. I'm here today, tomorrow. How can I, in a healthy way, not with toxic guilt and shame, but okay, how can I become a better version of myself? But and be inspired by the great personalities. Of course, it's not like, okay, I will stop reading the life of the great saints because I may compare myself to them and feel miserable. Okay, we may need some distance for a moment, but there's a healthy way to approach that. As Srila Sridhar Maharaj will say, Guru is your own potential appearing in front of you. So Guru is not coming here to say, you imitate me and be like myself and eat like me and dress like me and think like me and feel like me. That's some form of impersonalism. Like, you become me. Guru is just mirroring back, giving you hints of all that you can be. Guru is your own potential appearing in front of you. Guru is a servant of your potential. Guru comes to your life, and by Guru I'm not limiting it to one specific person, but whomever happens to embody that principle is someone who is serving, assisting you in excavating all that you can be. But all that you can be, you, not someone else. So that's part of the role of a guide, to protect you from yourself, of doing spiritual bypassing and trying to be someone else, even trying to be your guru in some ways. And we will try to say, no, be yourself in the best possible way you can be today. And tomorrow we will talk again about what's all the best you can be tomorrow, and so on and so forth. So yeah, we have to find that balance in being inspired by what everyone else is doing without the temptation of comparison, imitation, self-deprecation by that comparison, and not feeling that, and not feeling everyone else's achievements as a threat, right? Threat, right? Because it's easy to fall into that. Let's be honest. Someone happens to be have so many qualities, and sometimes we will use the word envy, right? Like, oh, you're envious of that person. And sometimes we use that word a little bit like non-compassionately, in the sense that generally behind envy means I cannot tolerate your success. I need to eliminate you. But actually, it's not personal with the person. It's just that I have such a poor self-image that whatever good thing you show, it threatens my lack of self-appreciation. Follow my point? Whenever someone shows something positive, if I don't find anything positive in me, whatever positive comes in anyone is a threat. So I need to eliminate that, so I don't feel so miserable about myself. So generally, that's the background of envy. So there's a way to see envy with compassion and understanding. So we have to learn to gradually build a stronger sense of self, in which other qualities are not a threat, but are actually food for my soul. And they invite me to be myself. Again, not to lose myself in the other person. And again, I'm never using the word easy here. But that's what it is, right? And I will say in good company, and I'm not saying that only to Ananda Kumar here, who asked the question or shared, but to all of us, and to me included first in the list. Going back to the cactus and the desert, somehow or other we all may feel at days, I'm a cactus today. No, someday, once in a month, I may be a rose, a blossom, but sometimes I feel more like a desert, whatever, pebble, or even cactus is pretty good actually by comparison. And yeah, we need nourishment. No, if we remain in proper company, proper sacred family, that's all we need to have all success warranted. And if we are sincere in that midst, of course, our sincerity, nobody can do it for us. But also we have to secure safe environment, sacred environment, people who understand us, who receives us, who nourish us, who inspires us. And if that's going on, and I don't want to talk for you, Nanda Kumar, but I will argue that that's going on in many ways in your life. Even if there is a dark night of the soul, like as Bhakti Raj is saying, sometimes the dark night of the soul is like a night of Brahma. I have a dark night of the soul of Brahma. It seems like this, never ending. And I've heard of life of many saints who will describe they've been in the dark night of the soul for 40 years or things like that, right? But at the end of the day, or at the end of the night in this case, it all made sense, looking in retrospective for them. I'm particularly thinking about one Christian mystic, and she said, I've been in the dark night of the soul for the last 45 years. And when it all ended, it made absolute sense. And I'm not repenting any of that. I mean, it had to be that way. And again, I'm not saying that the same will happen. I'm not throwing a curse to anyone here. The same will happen to you. So you better get along with darkness. But yeah, darkness has a lot to teach. It's as a great teacher as it is light, right? So we better make peace with darkness and with uncertainty. And as long as we are going through our dark nights of the soul in a safe container, in a safe environment with proper company and understanding and nourishment, that's the most glorious combination, I will say. Today I was talking with a dear friend, and he's happening to be going through a very relatively sudden crisis of faith in connection to guru and institution and identity, because it's all tied in. We were talking about I was giving a little bit of my unsolicited advice, but like I was saying, yeah, don't try to rush into any quick solution. Don't try like to enter into the fixing mode. Okay, I have to fix the problem. No, like typical toxic masculinity mentality. Have to fixer of things, fixer. No, stay with the wound, stay with the uncertainty, stay with the question enough till it basically breaks. Maybe that hopefully doesn't break you down, but breaks you open enough to create a breakthrough. As we were saying the other day, maybe first you need to, maybe this is the sequence. You break down, you break open, you break through. But sometimes we want the breakthrough. Don't talk about breaking down, breaking open. I want just a magical, mystical epiphany. But sometimes we need to fall down our knees and pray and be a little bit disconcerted and again, going back to Brahma's example in the Bhagavatam, that's one of the most important sections of the Bhagavatam. Brahma went to Vrindavan with his certainty, with his security of, I know who Krishna is. And then he entered Vrindavan and he had no clue what was going on there, because he had this toxic certainty. I met Krishna at the beginning of creation. He's like this. He greeted me like that. He speaks like this. He's very sober. He speaks like a guru, very Upanishadic. And then he goes to Vrindavan and Krishna is having a picnic with his friends. Like, that doesn't look like the one I met at the beginning of. So again, what's going on? And the whole thing became more and more complicated, let's say. And at the end of the day, Brahma fell on his knees and fell to the ground. Literally, the Bhagavatam is saying he was in his swan. He fell to the ground in Vrindavan and offered prostrated obeisances and prayers at the feet of Krishna, crying, bathing Krishna's feet with his tears and prayers. So he had a form of breaking down and breaking open and breaking through. So the Bhagavatam shows that pattern. Sometimes we need to accept that reality operates in some of those ways. No, yeah. So yeah, there's nothing wrong to being a cactus for a while. It's fine. Cactus has its own reserve of water. There's some subterranean channels in connection to other cactuses, some mycelium-like networks, cactus. So even if all of us feel like cactus at times, at least we can be in the same desert together, relatively close to one another, and we are giving our cactus-like association to one another, so to say. And yeah, and cactus have fruit and have water and so many things. So. But yeah, just remaining in the proper association. That's we should. Yeah, we should spend some time. How to say? If we've been touched by the gift of mercy, divine grace, real sadhu sangha, even if it lasted for 5 seconds or a moment, we should stay with those epiphanies. I'm sure we all had in some way or another, and treasure them in a way that really, how to say, starts to create ripple effects. That's what this verse that today we're talking with Dasavatar Prabhu, and he says, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Kaya Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi. So in one sense, that verse may sound exaggerated. Like it says Lava Matra, just by 1 nanosecond, basically. That's the unit of time that it means. A nanosecond of Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi. All perfection is attained. I was like, what? 1 nanosecond? I have already, if I have to count, I have hours, days, weeks, months, and I don't feel perfection has come. But for me, the spirit of that verse is, if there is a genuine moment, 1 genuine nanosecond of glimpsing of what's going on in real sadhu sangha, even if you have not officially yet arrived at certain whatever stage of development, that single nanosecond already set you on a journey that is taking you there, and it's just a matter of time. And in that sense, it's secondary. When will that happen? You already have been sent with the momentum to reach there. So all perfection is there. You're on the road to that. So again, we all had those moments, but sometimes also we forget those things. At least for a moment. We may collect our faculties and go back and know, yes, this was so unique, this was so special, this was undeniably bigger and deeper than anything. So we have to treasure those things and contemplate upon them and continue to nourish those moments, to not lose north in our journey. I don't know if anything of that helps, Nanda Kumar. It was just what came.
It does. It does. Yeah, these moments of undeniable truth, a glimpse of far greater and clarity, and you can't deny them anymore afterwards.
It's irreversible.
And you're like irreversibly messed up. You're, as I like to say, sorry, your material life is ruined. But thank you.
Thank you for your honesty. Always your courageousness is bringing your self with full nakedness and vulnerability to the table. That's deeply empowering. So, in itself, that's a symptom that you are no longer a cactus. So hopefully you can see that also, not as a matter of being proud, but as a gift of grace that is empowering you to step in with authenticity. Those are gifts to appreciate and to be humbled by. So as we are humbled by witnessing that. So thank you for that. Going back to the 3D audience for a moment. Someone has something to share, Patrak.
Just a very quick side note.
I will put the camera with your permission.
You mentioned darkness before, and just a saying I came across came to my mind. It applies to pain and I guess also darkness. That pain or darkness will leave you once it taught you enough.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very powerful statement. That's all I wanted to read.
Thank you. So for those who have not heard, yeah. Patrak was saying just that pain, darkness won't leave you until you have learned the lessons they want to teach you, us. So yeah, there's always a lesson in that. As I was talking today with my friend, I'd like to think in terms of, again, something comes to our life and we think, oh, that's a problem. Whether we're talking about pain, darkness, sometimes we label it as problem, and then afterward problem comes problem to be solved. So again, we enter into fixer mode. How to solve this problem? Instead of probably thinking, oh, maybe this problem is coming to solve me. Right? Because to say I have to solve the problem in place, the problem is outside of me, and I'm not the problem, I'm the solver of problems. But actually, you are the problem. And whatever is happening outside is coming to solve you. But because you are the problem and you don't see that, you project the problem outside. So to say, in general, right? Like Srila Maharaj will say, environment is friendly. Again, I'm talking in general. Let's have common sense here. If someone wants to hit you with a stick, oh, environment is friendly. Try to be practical, for God's sake, just in case, clarifying. But yeah, it's a way of reorienting our practice, right? Like, okay, how this problem comes to solve me, how this darkness or pain, what is trying to teach me? That's a very courageous question, because it's so easy to rush into, again, trying to solve it or trying to avoid it, trying to deny it, trying to put it under the rug. And the dragon becomes bigger, more fire. But when you dare to confront the dragon disappeared. Oh, what happened? And when you give the back to your dragon, the dragon becomes bigger and bigger and more fiery. And so, and again, I know it takes courage, and sometimes we lack the courage. And that's why we have to gradually, as we were talking also today, train ourselves in fearlessness. Sometimes fearlessness is, of course, is not an isolated issue. We may gain fearlessness by feeling supported by community, by other people who are being fearless, and we may feel inspiration to take that step. We may develop fearlessness by gaining a deeper insight into the unconditionality of love. How much actually Krishna is accepting me already. No, it's not that by me confronting this dragon, there's a risk of losing everything. No. I have my back covered by Krishna's unconditional love. So by gaining more awareness of all that, we can actually increase our fearlessness, which is a very important attribute of every Vaishnava, I mean, every person. But here we are talking in the Vaishnava assembly, so abhayatva, fearlessness. That day I was talking with a friend of mine, and he was telling me how in certain Vedantic orders, when someone accepts sannyas, one of the vows they accept is fearlessness, which is interesting because sometimes we don't make that a vow, and if you don't explicitly make it a vow, you don't live it. Sometimes we think the vow is just celibacy, for example, and again, I it's part of it, but there's much more to a life of dedication than just sexual the celibacy, basically, no? Fearlessness. Because I can be restraining myself sexually in a biological way, but overindulging in so many subtle things and escaping so much things that give me fear. So actually, the ultimate vow is fearlessness. Right? And I will say not only for a sannyasi at the end of the day. Somehow or other, all have to be fearless. So, yeah. Anyhow, thank you, Patrak, for that insight. Stay with the suffering long enough till it teaches you its lessons. And that's for me what Krishna means when he says, the mind, Bhagavad Gita 6.6, Bandhurat Matmanastasya Janad Manajitahanat Manastu Satrite Bharte Tatmaya Vasatva. For the one who has not controlled his mind is the worst enemy. For the one who has controlled his mind is the best friend. So what's an enemy, what's a friend? It all depends how we relate. So suffering and pain, I stay enough time with them, they start to reveal to me their secrets. Oh, suddenly they are teaching me, they're enlightening me. Darkness is enlightening me, paradoxically. Suddenly they are becoming gurus of sorts. No longer they're enemies. Maybe no longer I think of them as pain or suffering or something negative. So, but you have to stay long enough with them for that transmutation to take place. Like with any other relationship, you have to stay long enough for certain things to actually show themselves in a different light. Yeah. If we just judge them from the distance and quickly run away, we may get very distorted pictures about everything, right? That's why Krishna's conclusion of the Gita is do not fear. Because he knows we fear so much. And again, it's just to accept that realistically also, not to stigmatize ourselves or judge others. You are so fearful. You should be fearless. I mean, that's not how it works. When Krishna says do not fear, he's not saying that from how you dare to fear. You should not do that. But he's acknowledging, hey guys, yeah, I know. We are all terrified. But there are reasons not to fear, right? Again, that's the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. No? First, he speaks almost 700 verses, trying to give reasons why not to fear. Because if you just say someone do not fear, and you're not giving them enough reasons not to fear, it's nonsense. Mm-hmm. If I tell you, you should tolerate this, but I'm not explaining you why, you're like, why? I won't tolerate. Probably you will do the opposite. So, yeah.
I was just thinking about this problem and solving problems. Maybe another way to look at it, not to make it an either or, but to make it as well as. Mm-hmm. Like it's not like there's a problem and I'm going to fix it, or the problem comes to fix me. Mm-hmm. But if you put the two things together, there's a problem coming, and that gives sends a signal to me. Yeah, I have to change myself. Mm-hmm. Then I do fix the problem. I do solve the problem, but not by attacking the problem outside. Yeah, but I just change myself. Yeah, and that's how I solve the problem. Yeah. So it's like it's not one or the other. It's a cooperation between the two.
Mm-hmm.
If I can understand what the problem is supposed to trying to tell me.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just
Yeah. But at the same time, I kind of both thinking, if I should say, if I change myself, then there is no more problem. So where was the problem to begin with? So in that sense, I'm saying the so-called problem is coming to solve myself, because actually the problem is here. But I get your point nonetheless, but I'm just thinking along with you are reflecting. Yeah.
The problem is coming as a friend.
Yeah, because problem is also how we label reality, right? Because in the same situation, one is saying this is such a problem, and the other person is saying, wow, Krishna's grace. And objectively, the situation is the same for both, but they are perceiving that very differently. So at the end of the day, what's the problem? That's why our tradition, if we want to be like a little reductionistic, will say there are not many problems. The only problem is avidya. Everything else is a symptom, even what happens outside, what seems to be a problem, it's just a symptom of avidya. Your avidya or someone else's avidya also, of course. But if we will be, in principle, I know in practice we may be far from that realization, but if we will be free from avidya, from ignorance, in one sense, there are no more problems. In the sense, again, the problem is a word, right? So what everyone understands for problem, it may be also different. We can also reframe problems as invitations to grow, no? And it's way more positive. It still is challenging, it still is complex, it still may feel painful, but if I can keep the frame of this is an invitation to grow, I can trust that whatever is coming is an invitation to grow. No matter how unsurmountably difficult it seems, I trust there is an invitation to grow there. That's what we were talking the other day in Italy when I was telling some devotees this idea of the opposite of easy. It's not difficult, it's impossible, and difficult is the middle point. And one devotee will have a saying like, as long as it is difficult, there is hope. No, but someone also said, well, but if things are always difficult, we were saying if things are not difficult, it's boring. If everything is easy, but someone said, well, but if everything is difficult, I don't see much fun there also either. So we were trying to reframe difficult, right? Because difficult is not just also like, here you have another difficulty and another difficulty, right? Because we can, again, associate very quickly difficulty and a God who is trying to make it hard for me and I'm suffering. But difficulty is an invitation to grow coming from a person that loves us. Like, I don't know, a father with a child who wants to see the child growing and maturing. And in order to do so, he will challenge the child in certain things that will invite the child to make an extra effort and grow. So that's how we can speak of difficulties, or problems. But yeah, don't lose sight of the invitation to grow, because that's when lose sight of that is like many times we just enter into meaninglessness. Like, why this is happening?
Very interesting. Sridhar Maharaj said this: the environment is friendly, and this is it's actually a very challenging statement, because
sounds poetic, but it's complicated.
There's war in Ukraine, so many people are dying, and parts of body flying here and there, so I go there and tell the people the environment is friendly.
No. So I'm not saying go there and tell that, right? Of course.
So, but it's not a sentimental statement. So I want to reflect about the depth of this.
Yeah.
because you were telling a story today of a little bird, and another bird of the same species was attacking this bird, and pecking, and so I was trying to kill that bird. So one goes into nature, and I'm thinking nature is so beautiful and so wonderful and so green and so peaceful. Yeah? And then I'm also thinking there all in these hidden places I do not see. Now there is war going on in some way. Jivasya Jivanam. One entity is feeding on the other living entity. So we were talking about that now. The environment is friendly. It must be on some different level of understanding. So there is a problem coming where I'm watching all this war and all this fight, struggle for existence going on, and there's a message in there. So now I could figure out for myself what this message is, but I'm lazy, so.
Don't be lazy, Jagannath Prabhu. Tell us what's the message in there, please.
I have to think and reflect. Of course, I know theoretically that it's teaching me something, and that the problem is with my perception of the situation. So I desire to come to a point where there is really a ghastly scene, like on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and all this blood is flowing, and people are going, the blood is rising up to over the knees, and still feel. And sometimes it's even described in this fighting in Kurukshetra, and the arms and the bodies flooding there in blood, and so, and there is certain beauty in that. Isn't a certain aesthetics when Krishna was fighting, and I don't know exactly now, but when he was pierced by arrows or something like that, and this is aesthetics.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Whereas for another person it may look like total destruction, ghastly scene. This, you know what I. So it seems to be a thing of perception. If I can see that Krishna is everywhere, and that this is it's everything connected with him, and it's actually an expression of love, and there is no, it's nothing bad in that in the deepest sense. Even if as a conditioned soul we may perceive it as a horrible sin, and so become very upset and this and that. So even if I like to relax in the woods, because that really earthens me, brings me down. So if I go there and I know that everywhere this fight is going on, just killing this and that, the one who killed that is the next is coming and killing this living entity. So how can I be peaceful? I think this is just this wonderful scene, and it's so soothing, and actually it's not so. I want to get to that level where I can see that actually it is, even if this is seemingly or whatever, and one thing very completely going on.
Your permission. Yeah, thank you for that. There's a lot to say about that. That's a good question. We have been talking about that many times. I remember in Washington, D.C. some months ago, we were talking about how simultaneously, let's say we are here in this world, we don't want to be indifferent to things that are happening in the world and even in our lives, because if I only suffer when something happens next to me, but I don't care for all the suffering around, that's a little bit strange, to be generous. But also, if we just zoom in, let's say, I don't know, let's pick Gaza, among many options, many available options. Let's pick one and just start to zoom in. There's a point that you go crazy because it's too much. It's too much. And by zooming in that much, you probably also lose sight of so many other things that are happening, which are beautiful. Apart from that. So it's complex because there is beauty, there's love, there is compassion, and there's cruelty and evil and suffering and pain. I mean, we don't, in one sense, we don't want to deny any of that. That's for me how it looks to be a wholesome human being. It's not like, okay, that's their karma. Again, I wouldn't say the environment is friendly to someone coming. There's ways to be sensitive about the things, and there are things that can be said and should be said at sometimes and not at others. But I mean, I think, and it's complex to do this, but a wholesome perspective means embracing everything and accepting everything and accepting that. And there are so many related themes in this. And I may bring a few of those. But for example, sometimes I hear devotees saying like, and I briefly touch upon that in my book, or in the book, in the one I'm writing, but okay, all this is Krishna's arrangement. So Krishna wants this to happen. I say, no, I don't agree with that. Because that makes for like a sadist God. Yeah. Like, yeah, somehow this is his lila. And no. So then why he doesn't stop that? No, we enter into this type of conversation. If we assume that Krishna is omnipotent, and I don't want too much there because that's a long conversation. And if we assume that omnipotency means he can do anything he wants, then, and he's all merciful on top of that, and omniscient. So why he doesn't just, so then we have to analyze that probably Krishna is not omnipotent as we think he is. Because if Krishna will be, and at least this is my perspective, and I try to base that on Shastra, if God's omnipotence means he can at any moment interrupt anything, that will cancel our free will, for example. Mm-hmm. Right? And the consequences of our free will, which will be suffering for me, for all my point. And if Krishna cancels our free will, he's canceling the possibility of love, because love can only happen if I freely will to love. And he is love, as we say today. So if he cancels free will, he cancels love, and if he cancels love, he cancels himself, because he's love. And Krishna cannot cancel himself but stop being Krishna. That will be absurd. You follow my point? So we need to understand all those things when we make the case for, okay, what do we mean by God being omnipotent? He cannot do anything and everything. Krishna, as I said yesterday or today, Krishna cannot stop being Krishna. There are certain things he cannot do. Jiva Goswami said, free will is one intrinsic quality of the soul. If you take out free will, the soul is no longer soul. But the soul is always soul. Krishna says in the verse, I think, 12th verse of the second chapter of the Gita, no, there was never a time that you or I never have been, never are, or never will be. So we are always existing as individuals. And the soul, to exist eternally as individual, it must have free will. And to have free will means the free will entails the consequences of your actions. And to deal with free will of other people also. It's how it is. Of course, it's risky because we can choose to do all the horrible stuff we do. But if we cancel all that, let's make the human beings, which to begin with, you cannot do that because it's not that Krishna creates us. No, that's another thing. We're not created. We exist eternally. So it's not that Krishna at one point is, okay, I will make human souls. Let's make them like this. No, Krishna exists eternally along with his Shaktis. So, but hypothetically, if Krishna will say, okay, let's make a world where there's no chance of evil and suffering, there's no chance of wrong action, that sounds like hell to me. Like we start going back to a totalitarian regime. Let's make everything perfect so we never go this, which basically means you have no choice in the matter. Everything is absolutely predetermined. And it's like, oh, I lost my freedom now. So then we go again to the point. Okay, love is the greatest thing, but love has to be chosen. And for love to be chosen, how to say, comprehensively, there has to be another option apart from love. And that second option has to be different enough for it to be a meaningful second choice. Because if Krishna only gave us the chance of loving, that's not a choice. Because there's no second option. You follow? If I told you, you can choose to love Krishna, and you say, which are the other options available in the menu? There are no other options. This is the only option. So that's not an option. Right? There's no choice. Krishna knows this is risky. This free will issue is risky. This love affair is risky because love has to be voluntary. So when people doesn't choose love, they choose so many other things, and we have the mess we have. But still, in the middle of that mess, Krishna remains being love. And even in the horrors of Gaza and so many other things, still there is love, there is mercy, not necessarily in the acts of some people, but in Krishna trying to appear and manifest in between and heal and help for those who are willing to open to that. So I think that for all of us, it's, in my opinion, and I'm not telling you what to do, but how it works for me is I do not choose to say, oh, all that is the result of their karma. That's nothing to do with Golok Vrindavan, so it doesn't touch me. I'm only concerned with transcendence. Well, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita described first quality of the devotee in many places, Kripalu, compassionate. In the Gita, he says, the Vaishnava is someone who makes other suffering his own or her own. Again, at the same time, we need to do how to do that in a way that I'm not overwhelmed by that. Especially in the age we live, not only because of the scale of stuff, but also of the scale of the abundance of information. Because, I mean, before, I don't know, internet or other technologies, we were not that aware of what's going on at every single place on earth. But if you just now see the news for 5 minutes, it's like, and generally the news are not oriented to the most suspicious ones. So we have to be careful, not to be evasive, but also to keep our sanity, because there's also beauty happening. So I don't want just to, in the name of becoming aware of the world suffering, to end up dismissing all the love and the beauty and the great things to appreciate. But in the name of appreciating those things, I don't want to be escapist of the suffering and pain that is happening. So how to hold both together, that's a paradox. That's complicated. But again, as we were talking today, that's how Krishna also feels. Again, it's not that Krishna just is happy and he feels for the suffering of the world. As we speak about, maybe Krishna himself has never been, not maybe, for sure, Krishna has never been a conditioned soul, right? It's not that, oh, now Krishna fell in Maya. So he's not subject to the gunas, let's put it that way. So he has no first-hand experience of what it means to be in that type of illusion. But that doesn't mean that he cannot empathize deeply with our life. Though he has not that experience, still he can connect enough with our suffering and illusion for him to feel something about it. To whomever that picture is going. Like, I don't know, if I'm talking to I don't know, my mom, for example. My mom lost 3 pregnancies, 2 before I was born, 1 after I was born. I have not lost any pregnancy in this lifetime, right? Because I cannot become pregnant. So I don't have first-hand experience of what it means to lose a pregnancy. But I can, on some level, empathize enough as to connect with my mom's suffering and also suffer and feel for her. Do you follow my point? I may not get the absolute full experience that she went through, but that doesn't prevent me from being deeply empathic. So in the same way, maybe Krishna has not gone through certain experiences we've gone through in the journey of conditioned life, let's put it that way, but that doesn't prevent him of deeply empathizing. He has way bigger capacities to be empathizing and compassionate. So on one side, he's an ocean of ecstasy and ananda and love, but on the other side also he's an ocean, hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu. So Karuna Sindhu means he's an ocean of compassion. In order to feel compassion, you have to suffer with the other person. That's the very definition of the word compassion. Passion means suffering, like the passion of Christ, suffering. And con means in Latin with. So you have to suffer with the person. And he's an ocean of suffering with the person. So he's holding those two things. No? He's relishing the highest peaks of ecstasy and love, so to say. And in the context of him being love, he's also connected with our suffering and trying to extend himself as much as he can. So again, we want to somehow feel reality as he does, as much as we can, of course. So it's not about picking between love and ecstasy and beauty and misery, suffering, and whatever. How to hold all of them. It's complex. Again, I'm not using the word easy. Holding that space where we can share everything. And I will say that's ideal for any of our relationships, right? If you want to have any mature relationship with someone, it's not just call me when you're happy, okay? I want, when Rupa Goswami said, reveal your mind in confidence to a devotee, that doesn't mean just reveal your most secret ecstatic revelations, nor either does it only mean just go when you are going through the greatest tragedy, right? Emergency call, I need help. No, we are to share everything. Life is to be shared in all, say like the all weathers of the heart are welcome. Right? So, but I know it's challenging again. So we have to see how we can remain aware at the same time, not become too overwhelmed with one thing or the other that we lose sight of everything else, the bigger picture. And yes, the ultimate bigger picture is that love is the ultimate, the final word, even in the midst of suffering. And we know many stories of those people who have been going through that's how we mentioned Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. I'm not saying everyone have gone through the Holocaust as he did, but examples like his show us it's possible. Maybe difficult, and we may fail miserably many times, but it's possible to go through the worst of the worst and still find meaning, purpose, positive content. And in that sense, we could say the environment is friendly. In that sense, again, not to justify any form of abuse or anything. But yeah, at the end of the day, the final word is always love. And even in the face of the greatest suffering, love. Now, suffering is there to prove that love triumphs over everything. And I think all of us have some experience of that in one level or another, right? So, but yeah, of course, we should be very tactful and sensitive when conveying this message to each person and considering what they are going through. Because it's not just an easy truth to judge, oh, here's the teaching, do it. It's like, hey, wait, I just lost my whole family in the war or whatever, right? So sometimes you just need to be present for the person, to put your shoulder, receive their tears, listen to them, be there unconditionally, and shut your mouth and not say anything. And maybe after some time, there may be a place for sharing something, but yeah. sometimes the main saying goes unnoticed, in another layer. Silence holds lots of space in many situations. The best way to hold space sometimes is silence, which gives a clear message to the other person: I'm listening to you, I'm here for you, I'm receiving you, and that's what the person needs. Sometimes we just need someone that we know it's there for me, and we can be in silence, and that's what we need for that moment, right? Krishna will say, of all secret things, I'm silence. Sometimes in silence, deep things emerge as well. Yeah.
Explaining this morning that if we love somebody, we also love naturally the things connected to this person.
Yeah.
And Jaganidhi was just asking, is this a question of perspective? And I think it is, because there's in the seventh canto, there's the example of Nishingadev and Prahlad Maharaj.
Mm-hmm.
After Nishingadev, he killed Hiranyakashipu. He took the intestines and he put them around himself like a garland.
Mm-hmm.
So we may think this is ghastly. But Prahlad, he was just standing there and thinking, wow, my Lord is so beautiful. It's a question of perspective. This is my Lord, I love him, and he's putting some garlands around himself. How beautiful. It's ghastly for us.
Yeah.
But,
And then Prahlad is praying for his father's benefit. So all that has to be accommodated, right? Because if not, it can sound bizarre, no? Like this boy has some childhood trauma, so he's dysfunctional, he's celebrating his father being killed and pray for him. There's some codependency stuff. Yeah.
Yes, and I think these examples may be there in the Shastras, in the scriptures, to challenge us. So what do you think about that?
Yeah.
So now what is your wisdom? Now what is your understanding? You think that everything is peaceful and you go in nature and everything is nice, but what about that they kill each other? That's also part of the game. So it's like a challenge. It forces us to understand everything is related to Krishna. Because if you think there's something not related to Krishna, then again, it's this duality. There's Krishna and then the things which are not related to him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can also, you use the word bizarre. It becomes very bizarre if actually the whole reality becomes very bizarre if it's not understood properly in one way or another. And may I add a little? I have, you were speaking about Krishna's omnipotency. And
can we turn on the light from that side? Thank you.
I was thinking about that, and then I realized that Krishna will never be or act whimsically in a very basic sense. Whimsically, just because he is omnipotent in a very impersonal sense of being omnipotent. So that Krishna, he can do anything, but
no, he cannot do anything.
He cannot do anything because Krishna is bound by himself. And if he promises in Bhagavad Gita, Name Bhakta Pranashi, whatever, he will keep that promise. So in one way, one could say Krishna is bound by love. Yes, he can never transgress love because Krishna is he's never conditioned. So in this way, I meant that Krishna will not act whimsically because he is bound by himself. He has to stay true to himself. He will never betray himself as we do in the material world. So Krishna will never betray himself. And this is actually not a limitation.
Exactly. Yeah. So all this, I will say, all this takes us to realize how complex it is to actually understand Krishna and love and things when we have a very fixed idea of things should be like this. And as that's what Prabhupada was saying, sometimes we have some shocking scenarios to like shake us a little bit, like, oh, you thought that things were like that. What about this one? It's like, oh, that how does fit in? How does that breaks my normal way of thinking about things? And if you pay close attention, even the Bhagavad Gita just begins in a very unusual scenario, very uncomfortable, unsettling situation, tragic, so complicated. So it's not like a peaceful setting and everything is just given in a very smooth way. It's really complex. Same with the Bhagavatam. I mean, you have 7 days to live. That's complicated. That's not easy. That's not a comfort zone. You're just thrown out of the comfort zone in verse 1. And it's like, okay, then you have that revelation coming through that. So, and you have to learn to find love in all of that, because love is the ultimate reality, right? So, yeah. At the end of the day, and again, it's easier said than done, but love is what rules, and everything exists in the context of love. And even if the greatest tragedies are there, and we should learn to acknowledge them and even grieve them and mourn them, those are not the final word about reality or about those who are involved in that particular story. So it's always good to zoom out, not only zoom in, zoom out to the point of seeing a bigger picture and the wider context of Krishna's being love, holding everything together, so to say, even accepting the tragedy and even accepting the suffering and holding space. So we were trying to do yesterday in our sharing. We're trying to hold space, and some celebration, beautiful things come, appreciation and tears and suffering. I mean, we don't know what will come, but the commitment is, okay, let's hold space. It's like a way of replicating how reality actually operates, not imitating Krishna, but how we are, as we are being held by Krishna's unconditional love, we are trying to extend that and hold space for one another. So, and for whatever may come, as long as it comes, it happens in a place of held space, that will be always healing, right? So that's the important thing, to remain aware of the vessel that is holding everything else also. Down there.
While I was following this discussion, a thought was given to me, which I want to share, and it is that this material world is basically a manifestation of Krishna's vulnerability.
That's a shocking statement. Again, another one which is challenging us, not in a bad way. I'm just inviting you to elaborate. What do you mean by that? Yeah.
Because if we have this tendency, I can speak for myself. When I was a small boy, a small teenage boy, I was always thinking, I just want to be so charming that no one can escape my charm. And in that sense, control. And I want to be sure to whatever person I approach, they will fall for me, so to say. Because I want the security. And in a sense, of course, there's always this tension between wanting to conquer someone. That should not get boring, but at the same time, I always saw myself, okay, I want the security. People are getting attracted to me. So Krishna has this. I don't have this possibility. I found out in
sorry,
but Krishna has it by definition.
Yeah.
And still he chooses to say, okay, I give all these unlimited souls for whose love I'm hankering, because Krishna is. I give them the freedom to say no to me. And by that he makes himself very vulnerable. That he says, okay, all of you, I give all of you the right to betray me. It's one way to say it. I don't want to make anyone guilty. That's one way to say it. Or to say that you forget about me. I mean, it's the worst thing you can do for someone to forget about this person.
And that someone he loves you.
Yeah.
Exactly. He keeps loving us. And
On top of that, yeah.
So I think it takes courage to do that, and definitely vulnerability to be able to do that. And sometimes I sit at home and have this thought that I think, okay, wow, someone hurt me or someone rejected me, but how much is Krishna hurt and rejected. But maybe that brings me to the point Nanda Kumar made. I just now see a connection there. Because when I have this thought about Krishna, then I can say, oh, but for him it's easy. He's God. He can be rejected. He can be vulnerable. No problem for him because he's all powerful. He can wipe it away, so to say. No? And Nanda Kumar Prabhu said, oh, these devotees, they are doing so much. But then you think about it and you think, he's empowered by Krishna. It's easy. And I think it was a very beautiful thing and honest thing that he said it, because it is true. Jesus died on the cross, but he was for sure not suffering as we would. And it's a bit of a different point now, but
he was suffering probably more than what we are suffering, like we were saying the other day, right? Not to interrupt you.
Yeah.
When you love, probably you suffer more than when you don't love.
I mean the physical pain on the cross in this moment. And sometimes we think, oh, on our limited level, we have to do the same now as a great Acharya did. And I can get afraid, oh my God, I don't want to suffer so much for Krishna, sorry, but no. And then it's actually a very comforting thought that what Nanda Kumar said, that, okay, these people, they're not suffering on the same level as we are, because they have this safe haven, that God is there. They don't have this identification with this body so much that they're suffering like pigs in the slaughterhouse, so to say. Because Jesus knows, okay, this is my body and I'm getting crucified here. But with his mind, he's somewhere else. And this opens the space for us it gives us a lot of relief, because it means we don't have to suffer for God on this level as we sometimes think, that we murder and we have to get killed to prove God our love. But at the same time, it's challenging enough in its own way to say, okay, wow, it actually is easy if we surrender to God, that we can do amazing things for him. And then these things will be easy. In that sense, they're not a big accomplishment. It's a strong thing to say that, well, for Prabhupada, it was easy to make this huge society. In one sense, it was very easy for him. But on the other side, it's an amazing thing that he can give himself so selflessly to Krishna, that he can accept this power to Krishna. Because for me, it's not able. So I thought this was a very interesting point Nanda Kumar Prabhu made on the side, which is worth exploring.
Prabhupada himself becomes so vulnerable, and he had to become vulnerable also in his relationship with Krishna, and his relationship with reality, and that empowered him. So he learned, he already went through, realized that it's never forgotten that.
Yeah, like his famous prayer in the Jaladuta. That's, at least let's say that Maharaj will say, in that moment when Prabhupada emptied himself in terms of vulnerability, praying, he wrote this famous prayer at the lotus feet of Krishna. So at that precise moment, Krishna empowered Prabhupada in a very unique way, in that moment of him praying and emptying himself and being utterly vulnerable. Again, vulnerability and empowerment as a result of that. So, but yeah, I appreciate your point on Krishna, the creation being a result of connected with God's vulnerability, because there's every chance of many of us choosing not to not to choose Krishna, at least for some time. And okay, it's not that he's celebrating that, but he's willing to wait and accompany us, as you were saying, on top of that, loving us, as I like to say, and lovingly tolerating whatever we may like to say. Sometimes I'd like to say, it's not that after a few lifetimes Paramatma leaves a sign in your heart like, I'm done with you. No, look another super soul or something. But still there, silently, lovingly, patiently. So lots to reciprocate with. Well, I'm seeing one raised hand from Rasangi here. So maybe we can invite her to do her offering, and with that conclude, so it doesn't become much later. So Rasangi. please invited to unmute yourself.
Oh, Haribol, Haribol. Yes. Oh, I'm happy to be here and see everyone in the workshop. Hello, everybody. Oh, Hare Krishna. So happy to meet you. So happy to meet you. And although I could not hear as well as I would have liked, I hope maybe the replay, the recording will be clearer. I love hearing. No.
Can you hear me?
Huh?
I'm talking.
I can hear you. I can hear you pretty good, but I could not hear everyone so well.
Yeah.
But I love them. I love their questioning and soul searching. It's so wonderful. And I think what I have to offer today is also in line. And I've been listening to the classes. I think I'm up to date. You know, you've opened another can of worms, Maharaj, so to speak, with this unconditional love thing. It's like very
this unconditional love thing, another kind of worms.
Oh my God!
Like
enough already with issues with Guru and all this other very.
But you like to get into trouble, Rasangi, because you read all that stuff and watch all those classes. You're a troublemaker as well.
I love it. Yet I'm like on the edge, on the precipice, all the freaking time. I'm on the edge of this life, and I'm feeling so much right now, and I have so many questions. So, Maharaj, I think that, you know, have you ever heard the saying that love brings up what is least like itself? Love brings up what is inherently least like itself. So when we open ourselves to love, especially unconditional or self-love, there's an increased awareness of things that hinder or contradict love. And that's the insecurities and perceived flaws, or obstacles to connections in the world, or past traumas, as you say, and experiences of being unloved, and behaviors that aren't truly loving. Love acts like a mirror. Love is like a mirror. So I'm opening up so much to this that I'm rattling. I'm really experiencing a lot of what is my part of not being loving, thinking I was loving, but not really being loving all these years. So I have some sadness about that and realization. And then the other thing is, if we're meant to even practice this unconditional love here, what does that look like in relationship? What the heck does that really look like? When you're in a relationship in the world, things aren't unicorns and rainbows. Like, how do we navigate this realm in an unconditionally loving way as much as possible? That's what I'm grappling with right now. I think I've mentioned it to Bhakti Ras, and I feel like there needs to be some ground rules, like some guidelines. What is how do we practice unconditional love with one another?
Why
in order not to get hurt?
Why you want those guidelines? Why rules?
Because I don't want to be hurt, nor do I want to hurt anybody else. You know what I mean? So while I don't have it down, obviously, I want to practice that. I want to be trying to achieve more loving being. But I'm not sure how that's supposed to work in different situations, especially in conflict or in difficult situations. How do we show up and work it through so that it doesn't create pain and misery for ourselves and others? I mean, I have some ideas, but that calls for ground rules. So I'm putting it to you.
Oh, thank you.
To kind of
so kind of you.
Yeah. Butcher.
Now you open 10 can of worms yourself. So since you asked Bhakti Rasa, let's open a can of worms for Bhakti Rasa. I'd like to know what Bhakti Rasa said to you when you presented that topic. So Bhakti Rasa, please invite it to become manifest and come to the table. Very, very easy way of evasiveness from my side. Right? Bhakti Rasa is not coming. Bhakti Rasa, there she is.
I wasn't here for the whole
Bhakti Rasa,
question.
So Rasangi is mentioning about she asked you for some ground rules so she doesn't hurt anybody and she's not hurt. So we're all curious about which was your reply to Rasangi. We'll conclude with that today.
Okay. Well, how I had replied is that, you know, there are rules already in place.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, they are the pillars of radical personalism.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an open forum kind of situation. And a lot of times we can look to rules or look for rules in order to know how we can fit in. And, you know, to rely on rules to keep us in place so that we don't step outside the coloring line and we can feel secure that we belong, but it's actually, you know, a sense of fitting in. And sometimes we actually have to push against those rules, those lines, to find out that even when we do go across them, that we still belong and we're still accepted and we're still loved. Like a child who might challenge some rules and really look to see, well, what happens in my relationship with my parent when I break the rule? Am I still okay with them? Am I still loved? Am I still accepted? So sometimes there is a place to not have the security of rules, as long as there is already a bedrock of compassion, of love, of camaraderie, a unity on some level, an intention to show up and to ourselves be vulnerable and to trust. So it doesn't mean that there isn't going to be pain. It doesn't mean we're not going to make mistakes, but that we'll stick with each other to work through it. We will stick with each other. We won't give up just because somebody steps out of line. It's not about that. It's not a matter of fitting in. So sometimes we look for rules in order to feel secure about our position. But there's a freedom, a belongingness, a deeper belongingness when we don't have to draw such strict lines, and we can trust each other. We can trust our growth. We can trust our intent. And if somebody does get hurt, we stick around and work through it and come closer to each other. I think my answer was along those lines.
Yeah, it was. That's amazing. And can I just say, she also said, and occasionally we may puke on each other. We may puke. And occasionally we may even puke or throw up on each other. I found that, oh my God, that is so endearing. But I think for me, I need to trust myself, and I don't do that. I don't have that implicit trust yet in myself. And that's what's making me feel insecure and fearful. So that's part of it.
But I will add, just adding to what Bhakti said, that we are all working in trusting ourselves. That's a process. It's not that something that happens entirely. And I'm sure if you look back to even a few months or years back, you can see some improvement in that department, Rasangi. Yes or no? Absolutely.
Are you kidding? Absolutely.
I
So much. And yet it
That's what
doesn't
I want to
end.
hear. So
How
I'm
come
not
it doesn't?
kidding.
It
We are
doesn't
talking
end?
the truth here. So I'm not kidding. You're not kidding. You have seen some improvement. You're already on the path. You're healing. You're growing. What? I mean, if you are, and you're sincere, we trust you are sincere. So that will continue to happen deeper and deeper. Just trust the wave.
Right.
Trust the wave that is carrying you. Trust the embrace that is holding you. Trust the environment that is nourishing you and that loves you and will not allow you to betray yourself, basically. Trust. Replace fear with trust. There is place for that. Gradually more. Change the proportions from fear to trust, from fear to trust. I think I'm talking to you now, but I will extend it to it, but all of us, but you have lots of reasons to increase trust and replace fear with trust. So it's a daily discipline of entering that positive sacred space of acknowledgement and gratitude. Again, I'm not telling that only to you. I'm telling that to Swami Padmanabha first. So. Anyhow, I don't want to take much more of the time because we have already gone like 2 hours or something. But we can continue. It's an ongoing conversation as usual. So I'm glad to be part of this. It never ends. But we'll put a rest to it. Sorry, today we didn't have the breakout rooms. It's a little bit more complicated with the live dynamics here, but looking forward to have them very soon again. And for those who are able to connect, whether live or later, see you for our next meeting tomorrow morning, on what is Anartha Nirvriti, really, part 3. Tomorrow we go to some key paradigm shifts in how we perceive the sweet absolute. So see you there. Thanks so much for joining online, in presence, all of you. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanand Hari Hari, Vancha Kalpataru Vishag, Sindhu Vayo Cha, Patita Nam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Hari.